Hello, my most important friends. I used to think that after all these years of living, I had nothing left to be surprised about. But Capon left me speechless for a long time. Not because it was so big, so majestic, or so different, but because it was so quiet. So quiet that everything seemed to whisper to each other, from the broken stones to the footsteps of people passing by. We arrived on a sunny afternoon. The sky was a washed-out blue. The road leading to the archaeological site was not paved, but paved with rough gravel. On both sides were mottled grasslands with grazing cows and a few ungrown corn plants. Walt parked his bike under an ancient ceiba tree. He got out with an expression that could not hide his excitement. I knew that, for him, his years in the military had not made him unfamiliar with antiquity. But Capon was something else entirely, a place where Maya ruins still stood, as if waiting for someone to touch and understand. We were accompanied by a local guide named Louis, no more than 20 years old. His English was not fluent, but his voice was clear and confident. Louis did not talk much about the age. He told stories about a monkey statue that was once a symbol of wisdom, about a staircase carved with more than 2,000 Mayan characters that no one has yet fully deciphered, and about a headless warrior statue that was said to have been cut down by him so that no one would know his true identity. I don't know how much of it was true, how much was legend, but in Louis' eyes, every detail was alive. And what moved me most was not the architecture. It was the eyes of the locals who passed by, baskets of corn in their hands, their heads covered with homemade conical hats. But each time they passed the ancient stone gate, they bowed very slightly, as if their ancestors were still sitting there, witnessing and preserving. We took a nap at a house by the rice fields. The landlady made black bean soup, served with cornbread baked over a wood-fired stove. She didn't ask many questions, just put her hand on my shoulder as I stared thoughtfully at the collapsed stone wall at the edge of the courtyard. "Es bueno respetar lo viejo," she said. "It's good to respect the old." That evening, Walt sat alone for a long time on the stone steps in front of the archaeological site. He didn't take notes. He didn't say anything. He was just there, like a belated puzzle piece that had found its place. If you're listening to this, and you ever feel like you're too late to explore, too late to learn, remember that the oldest things are still teaching us every day, if only you'll stop long enough to listen. The next morning, we followed Louis down a narrow dirt road leading to the back of the archaeological site. No more stone statues. No more tourists. Just fields and forests, damp patches of ground still wet with dew, the faint smell of rotting leaves, and the distant chirping of birds like calls from another world. Louis took us to the house of a man named Emiliano. He lived with his wife and 2 young grandchildren, a simple wooden house on stilts in the middle of a cocoa plantation. When we arrived, he was splitting cocoa pods that had been picked that morning, the sour, slightly sweet aroma filling the yard. He didn't say hello. He just smiled, nodded, and then handed me a spoonful of warm cocoa powder, diluted in spring water and a little molasses. I took a sip. Something very old, very raw, very original crept down my throat, not sweet, not bitter, just the smell of earth, of roots, and of something nameless. Walt sat with Mr. Emiliano by the wood stove, talking by pointing, smiling, and nodding. It seemed like the 2 old men could understand each other in a language that didn't require learning. Meanwhile, I walked around the garden. The cocoa trees were short, with dark green leaves and red-purple pods growing right on the trunks. Lewis said, "People here don't grow cocoa to sell. They grow it to preserve the breed. Each tree has a story, a life." We walked to the back of the house, where there was a small bridge over the stream. Not big, not sturdy, but Lewis said it was the ancestors' bridge. The old people in the village believed that the souls of their ancestors would cross this bridge to visit their descendants every full moon. No one was allowed to destroy it. Even if it was washed away by floodwaters, they would find a way to rebuild it by hand. No miracles were needed, just gratitude. I stood on the bridge, listening to the water flowing beneath my feet, imagining the souls passing by every night. No one saw it, but everyone believed it. As we left, Emiliano placed a small package wrapped in banana leaves in my hand. He spoke in Spanish very slowly. "Para que recuerdes que on existen cosas que no necesitan cambiar." To remind her that there are still things that do not need to change. I nodded, saying nothing. My eyes stung slightly, not because I was touched, but because I realized that in a place far from every city, every Wi-Fi signal, there are people living peacefully like the earth, like water, like tree roots. And it is they, without noise, without theory, who are keeping the most essential thing of humanity: connection. If you are listening to this, please believe that sometimes you don't have to go far or do big things to change the world. You just need to keep something very original: a job, a memory, a bridge, a cocoa fruit that is not sold on the market but retains its flavor for many generations. We didn't go back to town that night. Walt said he wanted to sleep in the car, on the edge of the fields near Emiliano's house. There were no streetlights, just the stars and the sound of insects, the rustling of leaves as if whispering something far away. I sat by the window, writing a few lines in my notebook, while Walt lit a small fire outside, an old soldier's habit. The fire burned just warm enough, just enough to light his face, a face that was experienced, wrinkled but never lost the curiosity of a child. After a while, Lewis returned with 2 small wooden chairs. He sat down, said nothing, and began to tell in a deep, even voice a story that he said was a village legend. About a woman named Ixchel, a blind old woman who lived alone in the mountains. But every night she knew exactly who in the village was sick, who was about to give birth, who was having bad dreams. People said she could hear the sounds of the earth. And one day, when she knew she was about to die, she wrote down all the dreams of others on leaves. Then she let them drift down the valley with the wind. Whoever picked up the leaf with their name on it would know what they had to do in life. Walt looked at me. I wasn't sure if he understood everything, but I knew he felt it. Because both he and I had lived through years without knowing where our dreams were. And now, sitting in the middle of Honduras, listening to a boy telling a story by the fire, I felt like I had just picked up a leaf with my name on it a long time ago. When the fire was about to die down, Walt took out an old, rusty American soldier badge from his backpack and placed it on a rock next to the embers. He said very softly, not to leave the past behind, but to leave it alone. Lewis bowed his head in thanks, not asking why. No one asked. Because there are things that don't need to be explained, just witnessed is enough. On the way back to the car, I looked back one last time at the fire, which had gone out, leaving only a faint red glow. A part of me remained there. Not physically, but a part of my heart, the part that had doubted, that had closed itself off, that had feared no one would understand it. Honduras taught me this. No memory is useless, as long as you are willing to share it, with a fire, with a story, or with silence at the right time.